Stop with the questions. Celebrate.
And then they say, is Donald Trump an intellectual? Trust me, I'm like a smart person.
Yosemite's one of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water.
Mike Lindell's a conspiracy.
But you haven't.
Person, woman, man, camera, TV. They said nobody gets it in order. It's actually not that easy, but for me it was easy.
Amazing. He can't sit down. He's got a burning in his butthole. He's got a fire. He's got a flame coming out of his butthole.
Big, massive dumps.
Oh, I have a term for that. I call it corporate communism.
Somebody sent me a thing this morning where they're talking about putting the vaccine into salad dressing.
You see, this is a simple meme that you would find on the internet, but this meme is very real.
You ain't seen nothing yet until you see the flaming butthole.
Putting us on our knees to China.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
Beta bear.
Amazing.
Hello, everybody. We have the memes, the realist memes. You know, yeah, it's a meme on the internet, but it's very, very real. That's what the show is. No, welcome everybody. It's Monday. We got a show for you today. Lots of stuff. Of course, there's the usual mix of disaster and disaster. But anyway, yeah, we'll do that. Some of it should be fun. Others show how much of a dystopian hellscape we live in. That kind of wonderful stuff. So we have, of course, highlights of Trump going back on tour. That's always fun. We got some news about the Kentucky tornado. An interesting interview on that. We have the dystopian dash for cash in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Ooh, that's horrible. We got Kellyanne Conway. We got Dr. Oz. Technically, I guess, Doctor. But anyway, we've got that. Lots of fun. Like and share the stream if you haven't already. Very important that you do so. You help me out. And all that stuff. So anyway, let's do it. Let's jump in. Huge Trump rallies used to be a staple of our daily life, fortunately. Now, not so much. But following his defeat in the 2020 election and his constant cries of, it's not fair, it's not fair, Donald Trump has returned to doing super spreader rallies, or at least he is attempting to do so, with hilarious and sad results. So, over the weekend, former president and the disgraced former Fox News host Bill O'Reilly had headlined an Orlando, Florida rally, which attracted a modest several thousand members of his cult, fan club, whatever you want to call it. But unfortunately for him, it was a far cry from being able to sell out the entire venue. In fact, they kind of figured that they weren't going to be able to sell out the venue. In fact, according to photos, the mezzanine was very sparse. So let me just show you that real quick. You know, a picture there. There we go. Yeah. So not looking the fullest not looking the greatest. So, yeah, not looking so good. That's it. Supposed to have been closed off, but as you can see, few people were able to get to the top rows because rules. I mean, who cares about rules if you're Team MAGA? Oh, we don't care about rules. We don't care about anything. I mean, we're still trying to overturn an election that was incredibly fair. But anyway, the Orlando Amway Center, by the way, holds about 20,000 people. And I'm going to, again, show you a video here of the turnout. So you can see a little bit better than the picture that I showed you. Some people there, no, not that many. Let's just say baby sad. All right. Now, again, in all fairness, this could partly explain the lower turnout. Trump rallies are generally free to get in. Okay. Now, apparently, most people maybe would rather not pay to hear him bitch about the same things over and over again about low flow toilets and showers that don't spray as much water. Hey, look, to be fair, I would get annoyed about that too. But yeah, you really wouldn't want to pay for that. So for the joint event with O'Reilly, you actually have to pay for cheap tickets, $100. Oh, hell no. Again, I'm fairly biased on this one, but I'm not going to sit there and pay money to listen to this guy bitch about being a complete and utter loser. Only the members of the fan club, and that's what it is. This is just a fan club. All right. It's nothing more than a toxic fandom. Again, that's what they are. They're incredibly toxic. They're annoying. And of course, in some cases, very dangerous. I wouldn't mind them so much if they weren't dangerous, but they're also annoying, like any, again, toxic fandom. But anyway, and by the way, this toxic fandom translated itself over to politics. Sucks. It's very dumb. But again, the rest of the people, I think even if they voted for him, they're kind of tired of him, might have skipped out because, again, maybe they wanted to buy Christmas presents or something. There's a lot better things that you could buy with $100. I mean, honestly, a ton of great things you could buy for $100. Now, I want to show you one more thing. This is the screen capture of the Ticketmaster site showing available tickets that were revealed. Okay, and by the way, you can see that that's how many tickets were left on Sunday. You can see all little gray areas. Those were all unavailable. So they said, we're not even going to try to fill those. We're not interested in filling those. We're going to shut those off, or shut those down, I should say. We blocked them off. And we're not expecting to have anyone there. The blue areas are the ones that are available. So even when they closed off almost, what it looks like almost half of the stadium, they still couldn't fill everything that was available. Fun. Also, very sad and super pathetic. Maybe that has something to do with, like, I don't know, killing hundreds of thousands of their own followers with COVID news. All right, anyway, let's move on. Let's go to something, yes, I think you'll enjoy this because it's watching two horrible people fight. And that's always fun. The fake graphics, fake news, sad. Okay. Hey, a terrible person fight. Who doesn't love that? There's nothing more satisfying than watching two terrible people fight. On Friday, it was revealed that former President Trump is not happy with his good buddy, former Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. So now, according to Israeli journalist Barak Ravid reporting in Axios, Trump was triggered when Netanyahu decided to congratulate Joe Biden for winning the 2020 election. Now, this is the most standard thing ever. Politician calling to support or putting out a tweet, whatever, and saying, oh, congratulations to the winner of the U.S. presidential election. Why? Because, well, they obviously want to suck up to the president of the United States because the United States is incredibly powerful. So it makes all the sense in the world that the leader of any country would do this. But regardless, very, very unhappy for Trump. Oh man, he was very mad. In fact, here's what Trump said. He said Netanyahu was very earlier than most leaders, referring to Netanyahu's congratulations. I haven't spoken to him since. Fuck him. Trump added, according to Ravid's account in Axios. In fact, here's the thing. So Donald Trump, of course, wrong on the facts, but facts don't matter for him. Nonetheless, Netanyahu didn't congratulate Biden until several hours after many other foreign leaders, and he didn't call Biden for another 2 weeks. Not that I really care about any of that. The thing that I'm just amused with is just the unbridled rage over really ridiculous things. Because of course, right? Now here's the thing though. Netanyahu would have loved another Trump term. Why? Because Netanyahu got pretty much everything he wanted from Donald Trump and then some. And then some. Look, here's the thing, right? So first, Trump had relocated, I believe, the embassy to Jerusalem. So that was something that that Netanyahu and his right-wing party really liked, as well as the evangelicals, the ones who, of course, believe in the whole Jesus is going to come suck them up with the holy dustbuster, and then bad things will happen to anyone else that is left behind. That includes Jewish people, by the way. So, yeah, but nonetheless, that entire, I guess, prophecy, whatever, conspiracy, I guess, because there's actually nothing in the Bible about the rapture. It actually, it was something that was added on later to the whole evangelical mythos. But anyway, you'd have to look in that a little bit closer into like theology. But like this is something that they believe. But they believe that all the Jews got to go back to Israel and got to live in Israel before the end times get kicked off. It's weird. Weirdo beliefs. Super strange. But nonetheless, he did all these things for Netanyahu, for the Israeli government, the right-wing Israeli government. And as a result, Netanyahu is like, oh, you know what we're going to do? We're going to name a settlement, an illegal settlement on the Golan Heights after Donald Trump. We're going to name it Trump Heights. That was actually built on land captured from Syria in, I believe it might have been the 6-Day War, not sure, but it's still currently contested, according to The Guardian. In fact, Israel claimed that the strategic volcanic plateau that overlooks Lebanon, Jordan, and the Sea of Galilee has been rebuked by the UN and never internationally recognized. For decades, Israeli settlement in the Golan Heights had been globally shunned. And then, of course, that's until Donald Trump heard about it, somehow, recognized Israel's claim, and, of course, once he did that, Netanyahu was like, well, we're just going to name it after you now. So you pretty much own it for the rest of time. But now Trump's like, well, fuck him. I did stuff for him, and he's not even going to help me try to steal an American election? What good is he? What good is he? In fact, here's another quote. Nobody did more for Bibi. I liked Bibi. I still like Bibi. The man that I did more for any other person I dealt with. So understand what that is. He views this as a transactional relationship, which, as I'm going to explain later, kind of plays into old anti-Semitic stereotypes. But he added, and by the way, this also adds into the anti-Semitic stereotypes. He said, I also like loyalty. The first person to congratulate Biden was Bibi, and not only did he congratulate him, he did it on tape. Wow. Okay. So again, he expected loyalty But honestly, that's Trump. Trump expects loyalty from anybody he's ever done for anything for. Again, completely transactional. Even leaders of a foreign country. You know what's fascinating? You got to wonder how stupid is this guy? He expects a leader of a foreign country to have more loyalty to him than they do for the country they're supposed to lead. That doesn't make any sense. That's like expecting the president of the United States to have more loyalty towards Saudi Arabia than the United States. Well, I owe the president of Saudi Arabia, look, he did some favors for me, and I owe him. Look, to be honest, the reason that we're helping Saudi Arabia is for access to cheap oil. That's the reason that every single president, Biden included, is not doing enough to hold, for example, Mohammed bin Salman responsible for Jamal Khashoggi's death. Because, and they're going to do some weak, measures and we condemn you for the killing of a Washington Post journalist, but please let the oil flow. We just got to have access to that cheap oil. That's really all. And we're still going to sell you weapons, by the way. And that's what we're doing. Because, again, selling weapons is good for defense contractors. And, of course, Saudi Arabia really wants those weapons. And so they're like, we can't go against that. But we will put out a strongly worded letter. Come on. But here's the thing, too. So Trump doesn't really understand that because he doesn't understand the concept of loyalty other than, of course, to people towards himself, because he's only loyal to himself. He's never been loyal to the American people. Okay? And again, as far as Netanyahu is concerned, I think he's pretty corrupt. That's why he's no longer prime minister. He's literally on trial for charges that are breach of trust, accepting bribes, and fraud. So there you go on that. Now, Netanyahu responded to this report, published in Axios later on Friday, emphasizing that Israel's relationship with the United States remains vital, and that it was important for me to congratulate the incoming president. But of course, sure. Now, Ravid told him, though, quote, Ravid said that Trump told him, Bibi could have stayed quiet. He made a terrible mistake. Look, again, I think it's fun when two terrible people fight, so I'm not at all bothered by this. But here's the other thing, right? I mentioned the anti-Semitism, right? Look, Donald Trump has put out massively anti-Semitic messaging to his base. Again, the disloyalty trope, right? I did stuff for Bibi. Bibi's not loyal to me, so fuck him. Now, he also, by the way, going even more explicitly into the whole issue of loyalty, right? So he described, and this was during his, I think during one of his campaigns, he described local wealthy Jews as quote unquote brutal killers whom he doesn't like and whom don't like him, but will vote for him regardless because he'll protect their money. Again, that's an old Jewish trope of Jewish people only being out for their money. They're the misers. And that's why they're all in the banking and secretly control the world. Okay, yeah, if you ask, if you ask like Alex Jones or any of those insanely anti-Semitic people on the far right. Now, and what's funny about that is that comes from Trump, which is pure projection, because Donald Trump will do anything to protect his money. No, if anything, Donald Trump saw their loyalty, supposed loyalty, I should say, and their relationship is simply transactional, based solely on his protection of their money and his devotion to their right-wing Zionist goals in order to get their votes, which he publicly assumes to be their principal interest, by the way. Again, Trump said nobody did more for Bibi, the man I did more for than any other person I dealt with. But I like loyalty, and that's why I hate Netanyahu now. Or I still like him, but I'm really, really mad. Again, labeling any Jewish person who opposes him or his specific agenda, which, by the way, they both shared the same agenda. But since he didn't Netanyahu did not back Trump's coup attempt or his entire story about, the fraudulent election. It was a fraudulent election. They stole the election from me. No, well, now Netanyahu is disloyal. Disloyal. Bad America. Bad person. Bad. Look, I don't have to tell you that Donald Trump's incredibly gross. I'm just saying. But again, here's the thing, though, about American foreign policy. When it comes to Israel, it doesn't matter who's president. It's still going to be incredibly pro-Israel. Now, look, I don't like right-wing governments. I don't like right-wing governments anywhere. So obviously, I'm not a fan of Netanyahu. I'm not a fan of Naftali, the person who's running it now. Of course, it's because of those human rights abuses and illegal settlements on Palestinian land, things like that. I'm not in favor of any of that. I don't think we need to send them billions of dollars in military aid because it looks like they're doing pretty good, honestly, when it comes to that. I mean, this is a country, by the way, that has universal health care for all of its citizens. We don't have that here. Why are we funding them when we should be funding universal health care here? But that's the thing, though. Joe Biden and any other president, insert any other president here, they'll still continue to send Israel money for defense, right? Even if it is, at least in the case of Republicans, help the weirdo and evangelicals and their weirdo end times fantasy, which, if true, would actually end up killing the majority of Jewish people and convert the survivors over to Christianity. It's super, super weird. Okay, it just doesn't make any sense. So, but that's the side that Donald Trump has taken, whether he knows it or understands it or not, or is using that side for his own personal gain. It doesn't really matter. He's just still incredibly gross. Okay, moving on. How many examples before people realize Trump turns on everybody? We need a few more to make sure. Seriously, he went up to, says Dango Bango, seriously went up to Jewish Americans born in this nation, treating them like foreigners with allegiances to Benny. And again, that goes back to one of the old tropes of disloyalty. They're going to look at, American Jewish people in the state of Israel and think, oh, well, since there's Israel, they're going to be more loyal to Israel than they're ever going to be to America, even though they're Israeli citizens. Imagine if we applied that to anything else. And actually, in the past, we had. I mean, Japanese American citizens during World War II, they got interred. They got put into camps, literal internment camps, because, well, obviously you're Japanese American, but you're Japanese first, which means you're always going to have loyalty towards Japan. But again, this also is a super weirdly anti-Semitic trope that has been used throughout history. And so it's just incredibly gross. All right. Moving on. Go to a climate change related story, which is very, very bad. All right. Over the weekend, deadly tornadoes hit 6 different Midwestern and Southern states. One of the states hardest hit was Kentucky. Now, Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear says that as of right now, or at least as of Monday morning, there were 64 confirmed dead and 105 people unaccounted for. That is so far. He added that it could take weeks before a total number of fatalities, as well as the full extent of the damage, is known. At least 18 different counties had suffered massive damage from these storms. So this was a gigantic storm. And so incredibly deadly. In fact, Biden has declared the storms a major disaster area and has authorized an immediate federal response. Now, according to the Washington Post, that declaration makes federal funding available for storm victims for several Kentucky counties. In fact, the assistance available to residents affected by the storm includes grants for temporary housing, home repair, and low-cost loans to cover uninsured property losses. Biden also ordered federal aid to supplement other state and local recovery efforts. So now all of that is just a response to the storm, a reaction, if you will. Now, the head of the Federal Emergency Management Agency, this is Deanne Criswell, had an interview with Jake Tapper on Sunday morning. And so they talked about this, and she brings up a great point about how this, yes, we're doing everything we can, but understand that this is not normal, but it is becoming normal. Take a look.
How unusual is it to see a storm this powerful this late in the year?
You know, I think it's incredibly unusual. We do see tornadoes in December. That part is not unusual. But at this magnitude, I don't think we've ever seen one this late in the year, but it's also historic. Even the severity and the amount of time this tornado or these tornadoes spent on the ground is unprecedented.
And scientists warn that extreme weather events such as this one will only happen more frequently as the climate continues to warm. Is your agency, is FEMA, equipped to handle this new normal?
This is going to be our new normal, and the effects that we're seeing from climate change are the crisis of our generation.
All right, so let me give you some details about this, because what she's right is that what she's saying is 100%. Now, tornadoes themselves aren't unusual. Now, the timing of this, of course, is sort of unusual. In fact, look, even where I live in Michigan, we've been seeing some pretty warm temperatures. You know, I think we're almost 50 degrees right now. But that specific instance, you can't just point at climate change and say, aha, that's the direct result. You have to look at trends. You have to look at, you know, all the different data over a longer period of time to really point at climate change being the driver of this. And of course, when you look at the driver of climate change, or I should say climate change is the driver of weather events, you also have to look at what's driving climate change in the first place, which you look at, and you'll find that it's an activity. But now, what they looked at, though, and what they found very unusual is the strength of the storm, which is definitely something you can tie back to climate change. Now, they said the storm had traveled about 250 miles across Arkansas, Missouri, Tennessee, and Kentucky over the course of about 3 hours. That storm was going about 50 miles an hour. Damn. That storm was booking. Wow. Now, the powerful thunderstorm system that gave rise to the tornadoes was a result of unseasonably warm, humid air combined with a cold front that was created by the La Nina weather system, or weather pattern, that the U.S. is experiencing. And so tornadoes themselves, generally, and I've been through one before, they're frightening. They usually last a few minutes. However, Friday night storms, according to experts, were helped by strong wind shear, which appeared to have prevented the twisters from dissipating, meaning they were on the ground, they had lasted much longer, and therefore had a much longer, more devastating effect. So, while these conditions, by the way, scientists say were unique, they do say that it's difficult to clearly attribute that to climate change. I think that scientists are being a little too conservative here, but at the same time, they do say that the consensus is that a warming climate will lead to more of these types of storms, meaning that they will become more and more normal. So now another result that's possible of the warming climate that has been noted is that Tornado Alley is actually moving. It's moving eastward from its original Kansas-Oklahoma area into the Mississippi River Valley and Ohio River Valley, where Friday's tornadoes took place. So again, that moves, and you're going to see more tornadoes there, which means it's a new tornado alley. Great. Now look, overall, I think we're seeing what was projected by scientific models for a long time. Warmer temperatures, stronger storms, deadlier wildfires as well. Climate change, in my estimation, and I think in the scientific community's estimation, it's already here. And that's it. And look, to those who don't believe in it still, and there are people that exist, you can only ignore it until it impacts you. And sure, you can say, well, when it happens, oh, nobody could have seen this one coming. Well, we did, though. We all did. And again, we have politicians in this country that ignore it. I have politicians that are paid off by fossil fuel companies. Some politicians that even own fossil fuel companies, like Joe Manchin, that are making it so that we're not making any investments, or I should say divestments away from fossil fuel and investments into alternative energy that is carbon neutral or carbon free. And so, look, we've gotten to the point, and we've already been at this point for a while. We should have started decades ago. We have to do something about it. Unfortunately, I don't see a lot of action here by politicians that, again, politicians take bribes from big oil, so I'm not necessarily surprised by it. But we got to do something about it. I mean, facts are facts, and we have to stop making it worse just so that some elitist oil executive makes an extra dollar. We've got to do something. They think, though, and this is how they think, these politicians that are bought off. If your house gets leveled by a freak twister, that's a sad day for you. That's not my problem. That's your problem. And I'm here to say that no, it is everyone's problem. We all share the same climate here, and we all need these solutions. We got to do something, or else this is going to continue to get worse, and it's already bad. All right. We'll do one more story, and then I'll take a quick break. All right. Education is supposed to be the most important part of a person's life, setting them up for the future, to be leaders and thinkers and teachers. But not in America, where we make teachers do stuff like this for school supplies. So that, what you saw there is a hockey game in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, where they decided as a fun little intermission to put $5,000 out in $1 bills and have 10 teachers rush to grab as much cash as they can. Now the thing is that it's not for the teachers themselves. They can't keep any of it. That's for school supplies. School supplies. And by the way, not only are they doing that, but it's for the entertainment of the crowd. Insanity. Now, this was posted here by Annie Todd of USA Today, and it got a lot of reaction. Okay, so let me read some of the reaction for this. Now, one person noted, teachers on their hands and knees grabbing for $1 bills to buy classroom supplies for the amusement of a crowd. Yeah, totally uplifting and fun. Not at all totally dystopian. Another person says, seriously, we made 10 teachers battle over $5,000. Now, I'm going to get to more numbers here that are absolutely infuriating. But first, another person adds, as a spectacle of entertainment because of America. Meanwhile, I'm sure this will enable the local police to have a few more tanks. Because that's what we need. More tanks, more Bearcats, more heavily militarized police in the cities. Because, oh, wow, look, hey, if the kids don't have a good education, they're more likely to do crime. And therefore, if you're more likely to do crime, you're going to need more cops. Others made comparisons to billionaires like Elon Musk, for example. One person noted, "Our educators have to play the effing Hunger Games in order to have basic classroom materials, while Bezos is shooting cars into space for fun." Now, of course, it's not Bezos. Bezos did not do that. Bezos shot the Dick rocket into space with William Shatner. The car was Elon Musk shooting a Tesla into space. Hey, but look, it's easy to mix them up because they're both billionaires that have paid very little in taxes. By the way, Amazon paid nothing during the pandemic, made billions of dollars. And of course, Musk also increased his net worth. And this is after, by the way, getting billions of dollars in government grants and loans, about $4.9 billion to be exact. So, you know, we're just handing out money to corporations while teachers have to fight for any sort of relief. Because again, you can say, well, they're handing this money out to the teachers. I mean, yes, we're making the fight over for our entertainment, but we're handing it out so that they can buy school supplies for their kids. Paper, pencils, all that stuff that should not be required to come out of the teacher's pocket. And yet it is. And yet it is. Now, another person adds, is this supposed to be some sort of feel-good story? This is actually awful and dehumanizing. Well, isn't that the case with so many of the so-called feel-good stories that we have in this country? Again, all they really do is just kind of illustrate how barbaric our system and our country really is, and how people have had to depend on basically the charitable actions of the people. Now, again, good people, I mean, they've seen the system for what it is, and they're like, I don't know, there's not much I can do. I mean, maybe it goes back to the story of, I think, somebody who was working who got cancer. I mean, the stories probably happened a million times. And the coworkers decided, well, you need to go and get cancer treatments, but you can't afford to take time off. You don't have any paid time off. So here we go. We're gonna loan you, or we're gonna give you our paid time off so that you can go and get cancer treatments. Now, that was sold to us as a feel-good story. I don't feel good about that at all. Now, by the way, the people giving their paid time off, that's nice of them, but they shouldn't have to do that. In a civilized country, people wouldn't have to give their time off that they have earned by working at this company so that their colleague can go and get life-saving treatments. That's horrifying. Why don't we have paid time off? Why don't we have paid leave? That's mandatory. Oh, right. We tried to do that, but corporate interests decided, no, you don't get any paid time off. You don't get any PTO. You don't get any child care. You don't get anything like that. We're such a pro-life country. We're so pro-worker, aren't we? Yes, we're the best country in the world. No, we're not. No, we're not. No, the company should be doing that. The company should be giving people paid time off. Now, again, as for the schools here, these schools are incredibly poorly funded. In fact, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, their teacher pay is anywhere from $36,000 to $70,000 per year. Even lower if you're an elementary school teacher, which ranges between $24,000 to $52,000 a year. That's not great. When you look at it, $30,000 a year breaks down to $15 an hour. That is still yet not a livable wage. I mean, you're kidding. It's really bad. In fact, as far as best states for teachers, South Dakota ranks 27 out of 50. What a disaster. What a disaster. And so, again, a lot of these teachers in these areas, because of how the schools are funded, unless it's a private school. If you're in a private school, then you're probably getting paid very well. You're getting all the funding that you need because, again, you're likely teaching rich kids or kids that are going in with vouchers in the places where they're available, things like that. But if you're a public school teacher in a poorer area, you're not getting very much, and you are scrounging out of pocket for, for school supplies. It's disastrous. And now, of course, these teachers, I don't blame them at all, right? These teachers, though, unfortunately have to demean themselves for their students, just to be able to get supplies for their students. And again, I love these teachers for what they're doing, for how much they actually care. To say, I don't care, if I'm doing this for entertainment. I just care about the kids. I just care about the kids. But it's the system that's wrong. It's the system that's broken. Again, you compare that, their love for teaching and the students, versus how the country actually feels about them and what they do, their vital service. I think teachers are completely unappreciated as well as underpaid. So, and by the way, while this happens in Congress, they just approved a massive $768 billion war budget to bomb kids overseas. And while police budgets are also increasing everywhere. I don't think the country is turning into a dystopia. I think the dystopia is already here. I think our priorities in many different places are incredibly wrong. I think they're backwards. And you wonder why this country is failing on so many different levels and becoming nothing more than a tax haven for ultra-wealthy foreign billionaires. Disgusting. Just disgusting. We're going to take a quick break, come back, read some comments here. Then we've got Kellyanne Conway and Dr. Oz. Stay right here. Be right back. Around the Nation.
Shark potato except for food.
Oh man, I'm sorry.
Welcome back to the show. On the Nation right here. Walter. Jeff Walter back with you here. Please like and share the stream. Haven't already, please do so. Very important that you well, I just say that it helps me out greatly when you like and share. So sharing is caring, of course. All right, so go to Twitch here. Want to thank Kentucky Progressive Dragon and Crazy Hawaiian and PA for both resubbing. Kentucky Progressive Dragon, thank you for using Prime. That's one way that you support us. Bezos Bucks. You can help that out. Help me out with doing that. Thank Charles Booker out there doing the work that Rand claims he wants to do, and he's not even in the Senate yet. True. 13 months for Crazy Hawaiian and PA. So thank you very much. Again, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. You can support us by, of course, becoming a subscriber on Twitch as well. So you can join these fine folks in helping out the show. There's also ways that you can help us on YouTube. You can subscribe as well and send super chats. So I enjoy reading those. And then on Facebook, you can send stars and you can like our page and all that wonderful stuff. So, and you can subscribe as well. So we have 11 wonderful subscribers on Facebook. So thank you for that. All right. I think I just dropped something. I don't know. All right. Let's do it. We got more stories. Kellyanne Conway is back with more alternative facts. Here she is blaming the second impeachment of Donald Trump on Joe Biden.
And the third thing that's happened with Joe Biden in these polls is that the center has fallen out for him. Those people in the center who said he's going to unify, he's going to be bipartisan. Do you realize the most bipartisan action the Biden administration has taken, the most interested they've been in reaching out across the aisle and getting Republican votes, was impeachment? That tells you all you need to know about how they are fueling the divisions that are in this country.
Okay, so that was weird. So obviously, none of that was correct. I mean, look, you realize that Joe Biden, during the time of Trump's second impeachment, which was over January 6th, by the way, he wasn't in power. He hadn't taken power yet. You can't impeach someone who's out of power. I know, it doesn't make any sense. But again, very, very interesting pretzel logic here, especially, and I love this, because cable news has this fascination, this fixation on bipartisanship. And it drives me insane. It drives me completely up the wall because, unfortunately, when it comes to bipartisanship in Washington, that usually means corporations get a ton of money and, people get nothing. Regular working people don't get a whole lot. That's usually what happens. And that's what frustrated me about Joe Biden and his consistent calls with, wow, we need to reach out to Republicans, we need to work with Republicans. No, Republicans hate you. Republicans despise you. They're not going to work with you. And then, by the way, when they decide not to work with you, they're then going to slam you and say, why aren't you bipartisan enough? What's wrong with you? You said you're going to be bipartisan, and you just don't even work with us. You don't even reach out. No, Joe Biden has reached out a million times. And by the way, every time he does so, for the exact same reasons that I just laid out, it frustrates the hell out of me. And I'm like, no, you don't work with them because they don't want to work with you. They don't want to do good things with you. And by the way, if they do, then they'll take all the credit, which is exactly what happens. And it's actually what's happening right now with bipartisan infrastructure. The Republicans who have voted against it are going back to their districts and saying, look at the wonderful benefits of the bipartisan infrastructure bill. Wonderful. Yes, wonderful. So, look, that's what they do. Again, back to the pretzel logic. All right? So, look, they say, I want to blame this guy and this administration before he took power for the thing that they had nothing to do with. Now, that's not to say that Joe Biden and the administration weren't interested in impeachment. I think they probably were. I think they're in favor of it. Great. Look, I was in favor of it because I think we got to stop this guy from running again because he's a clear and present danger because he incited people on January 6th. Unfortunately, the Democrats were not strong enough to do that and decided, no, we're not even going to try to prevent this guy from running again. Because I'm pretty sure we can use him later for whatever crappy candidate we put up in 2024. That, you know, we could just say, but do you want Trump? Well, no, of course we don't want Trump, but we actually also want things like, I don't know, infrastructure that isn't privatized, childcare, paid leave, lower prescription drug prices, a higher minimum wage. None of the stuff that they've actually delivered, by the way, in any sort of meaningful way. So now, again, that goes to what she was actually talking about, the polling. The reason that Joe Biden's polls kind of suck right now was because he hasn't done what he said that he wanted to do. Okay, now, again, before I go into that, understand that you have a lot of things outside of Joe Biden's control. Despite him, of course, being one of the most powerful, the most powerful person in the country, there are things that he can't do unilaterally. For example, you've got inflation, you've got gas prices that are being blamed on him. I don't think that's his fault. That's COVID. You got Republican obstruction. That's also not his fault. Obviously, Republicans are going to obstruct him. They're the literal opposition party. We know. But he can push his party. He can police people like Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema. And there are things that he can do without needing the other party. For example, he could reschedule marijuana today, reclassify it. And, by the way, then he could also release the nonviolent drug offenders from prison. There you go. You could do that. People that were unjustly arrested for possession of a plant. That, you know, if he were to reschedule it, would no longer be illegal. He could also, by the way, cancel student loans. That's it. Student loan debt. He can cancel $10,000. He can cancel $50,000. He can cancel all of it, which is what I'm in favor of. But even if he does, even some of that, you know, $50,000, for example, which would, by the way, help a ton of black borrowers specifically, because they have a lot more student loan debt. They have to take out a lot more in loans. And so that would be a huge boon to the black community, which is the biggest, most reliable voting bloc for Democrats. And by the way, some of the people who are the most upset with Joe Biden not following in his promises to help the black community. So the student loan thing, again, do it today. He has the authority to do so, and it would make a world of difference, especially to the people who are the most reliable Democratic voters. Do all that. That would excite people. Now, and again, for Congress, more pressure to pass Build Back Better. More pressure on even voting rights. I know Joe Manchin says, oh, you know, we can, you don't have to get rid of the filibuster. I can find Republican votes. I'm going to find no Republican votes. No, they're too busy trying to restrict the vote, trying to stop black people from voting. They're not going to vote with you on voting rights. They don't believe in democracy. They tried to use their democracy on January 6th. You think they're going to work with you? No, hell no. Bypass them. End the filibuster. And again, Biden can't do that unilaterally. Obviously, he doesn't have the power, but he could pressure certain senators into doing so. Hell, even on reproductive rights. Do something about, I don't know, the court by hacking the court in order to protect Roe v. Wade, which is under assault right now. But forget all that, right? Well, don't forget all that. But moving on to another point, Kellyanne Conway specifically talked about, oh, he's losing the middle. He's losing the center. Is he, though? Is he losing the center, and why? Again, let's go with the assumption that the center is independent voters, right? People that have not gone Democrats or Republicans, right? Because, again, they'll call some of the more centrist corporate Democrats, they'll still call them socialists if it helps them, and it does. But let's talk about independents, okay? Independent voters, very important, very important. So among them, Biden's approval rating has tanked hugely. Biden's net approval rating among independents and polls back in September and October is at -16. -16. Now, of course, some Republicans and some corporate Democrats, they're going to tell you, well, the reason that he's losing independents is because he went too left. He went too lefty. He went too socialist. Too much money in the economy. It's caused inflation. Not true at all. Ridiculous, actually. No, what's going on right now with the inflation is, again, you've got COVID issues, the supply chain that is trying to catch up, and you have companies that have decided to price gouge. You have OPEC Plus that has raised, that has decreased production in order to raise prices artificially to make up for what they lost during COVID when demand was low. That's, again, nothing that Joe Biden can do anything about, but it's also the lie about inflation. Oh, gas is higher because of Joe Biden. It has nothing to do with it. These are corporations that are, and groups and countries that are absolutely greedy that are taking advantage of people. Again, you want to talk about, companies have to raise their prices. No, they don't. They don't have to raise their prices. Not when they've made billions of dollars during the pandemic and received billions of dollars in paycheck protection funds. Okay? That's government money, that's government grants and handouts given to them during the pandemic, in which they then turned around and used to buy back their own stocks. Give me a goddamn break. Give me a break. No, the inflation, that's just their greed. Their greed has been inflated because they know they can get away with it, and then blame blame the left for policies that were actually fairly, yes, popular, but also incredibly corporate. Again, the example of that, of course, is one of the COVID bills. In fact, the most recent COVID bill signed by Biden, it had billions of dollars in corporate welfare, but it also had some other good things in it as well, which is how they were able to pass it through. And specifically, I mean, pass the good things through by promising tons and tons of pork corporate welfare. That's generally how it works in this country. You can't get anything passed that benefits the average working person without attaching a ton of pork to it and a ton of corporate welfare. And that's exactly what happened with the COVID relief bill. But hey, it got people a $1,400 check. Where's that other $600? I have no idea. It's kind of disappeared. We're going to get you a $2,000 check. Oops. Where'd your $600 go? Oh, almost there. Oh, nope. We're just going to say Trump gave it to you. You know how to do politics whatsoever? Oh, my God. Then you're going to give credit and be like, well, that's okay. We're not going to give you the rest of the money because Donald Trump already gave you $600. Why am I voting for you? Again, that's not what I think. Again, Donald Trump's a disaster. I would never vote for him in a million years. But like the average American person, the average American voter, the independent that like can swing either way, that is so important. They're not going to look at it that way. They're going to look at, well, Donald Trump suspended my student loans. I didn't have to pay any. Under Joe Biden, my student loans are coming back. And by the way, the migration student loans, for example, Sallie Mae, millions of consumers, whatever, that are being serviced again by them, are being migrated. And that's going to be an absolute disaster. I'm one of the people that have been moved for my student loans. That starts up at the end of next month. People are going to look at that and say, well, now I have to pay student loans again. We're still not recovered from COVID, from the economic strain of COVID. And now I got to pay student loans again? Another reason to cancel it. But they're not going to go in that direction. They're not going to go in that direction. So look, the whole idea that we went too far left is a ridiculous idea. It's not backed up by the facts. No, the facts are Joe Biden hasn't done enough. In fact, according to an NBC News poll, finished in the back half of August, 32% of independents, including those who say they lean towards the Democratic or Republican Party, and 38% of pure independents, those who don't lean, say that Biden has accomplished a great or fair deal in office. So that's around a third. However, the vast majority, about 2/3, or the rest, 64% among all independents and 59% among those who don't lean towards a party, say that he has only done some to very little while in office. So, again, you look at the loss of favorability, -16 among independents, and then you look at that and you say, well, gee, maybe independents are saying we're not in favor of Biden anymore because he hasn't done much. Oh, well, that would make sense. That would make a lot of sense. It's about results. People want things to be done. Okay, people want to get stuff done. They want to feel like they're doing better than they were before. And I think a lot of people are not, unfortunately. And so now, as far as things that they approve of getting done, well, independents by 57 to 27% margin actually do favor the $1.2 trillion infrastructure deal, according to an average of recent Pew Research Center data and Quinnipiac University polls. Now, that passed. Joe Biden's already signed that. Now, the thing about infrastructure is you're not going to see any benefit economically from it immediately. You're going to see in the long term. Of course, you're also going to see with this particular bill privatization of roads and bridges, which means more toll booths and toll roads. So that's going to be a net negative. Even then, at that time, by the time that comes around, Joe Biden's probably not going to be either in office, or it's not going to affect him too much, I would say. But at the same time, they looked at another bill. They looked at the $3.5, or what was the $3.5 trillion infrastructure package, Build Back Better, and they still supported it. 48% support versus 37% opposed. So these are independents that are like, no, we like a lot of the stuff that's in there. Because of course. And by the way, if you don't include party in all of this, if you just go by the policy positions, again, most people are in favor of the things that are actually in the bill if you divorce it from the party. And again, that's just because they want things to get done. They want things to be better for them economically. And that's it. So now, interesting point on that. A more recent Monmouth poll found that more than 2/3 of the American public, that the Democratic Party, 69%, and the Republican Party, 69%, do not pay enough attention to everyday economic issues that affect people like them. And these issues, for example, drug prices. Drug prices. Very, very important, right? In fact, a West Health Gallup survey found that 80% of independent voters want Medicare to negotiate drug prices with pharmaceutical companies, which would lower the price of prescription drugs. That was part of Build Back Better. No longer. They're going to negotiate, maybe, even if this passes, which is very unlikely now, something like 10 drugs. That's it. Completely watered down by corporate interests, and it will still never get passed. And so, again, we got none of that actual human infrastructure. The only thing was the bipartisan infrastructure bill. And again, the results of that are not going to show up to help average people. And so they're not going to feel any sort of increase in their material benefits, from any of the stuff the government is doing. And so they're going to vote for the other party. That's the problem here. And so now Kellyanne Conway knows this. She knows the polls. She's not an idiot. No, she's a professional propagandist. So again, polls, she literally ran polls before being in the White House. So she knows what the numbers are. She knows how to craft a message from those numbers in order to, basically spread the narrative that she wants to spread. And that's exactly what she's doing here. Oh, Biden's failing because, impeachment or insert whatever, critical race theory, it'll be next week. Because they already tried the he went too left thing, and it fell flat. Because here's the thing, though. What's interesting is bipartisanship. The whole idea of bipartisanship. Nobody actually cares. Nobody cares about bipartisanship. The only thing they see is, I don't know, I just want things to get done. If that means Democrats and Republicans have to come together, then just get something done. Just get something done. I want them to do something because we're struggling. I don't care about partisanship. I wish that's how this worked, but it doesn't. The fact is, whenever something is bipartisan, it's usually a giveaway to the rich and to the corporations because they're the ones who write the checks. Almost none of the things that actually get passed have any sort of material benefit to the average working class person. Now, they'll throw us a bone. Democrats are a little bit more likely to throw us a bone than Republicans. Although, as you saw during the first part of the pandemic, you did have a Republican president and Republican Congress that were doing COVID relief, that were sending people $1,200 checks and unemployment benefits because of their beloved stock market. And they knew that they could try to run on it later. It didn't work, but they tried to run on it anyway. But Trump's botched response to COVID was too much for a lot of voters. So, yeah. But again, if you don't do something for the voters, and that's the overall point here, then the voters are going to switch the other way. And not the partisans. We're talking about, again, the center, the independent voters. Yeah, Democrats didn't deliver. I guess we'll vote for Republicans. Oh, Republicans made things worse. I guess we'll vote for Democrats. On and on. It's an endless cycle, which ironically only benefits pollsters like Kellyanne Conway, cable news hosts, high-paid consultants for both the Democratic and Republican parties, and of course political donors. But it never benefits us. Weird. Weird how that works. No, not weird. Done by purpose. So we ultimately are going to need to break that system. The only way to do so that I see is to get money out of politics. It's the only way to break the hold that big moneyed interests have on our entire system. Okay. One more here. Let's go to Dr. Oz real quick. Celebrity doctor Mehmet Oz, who is running as a Republican for U.S. Senate in Pennsylvania, has already claimed to be a victim of cancel culture. In fact, during an appearance on Fox News, Dr. Oz accused the Philadelphia Inquirer of silencing him because the paper announced that it would only refer to him not as Dr. Oz, but as his real name, Mehmet Oz. Take a look.
It doesn't sound like they're trying to help you.
No, they're not. They're putting their thumb on the scale. And here's the thing. There's such an enthusiastic response to the campaign. I'm here in Pittsburgh talking to people, and it makes me optimistic because they've got great ideas. Meanwhile, the Inquirer hates that I'm empowering you, hates that I'm taking on some of the established folks, hates that the entrepreneurial solutions that I'm offering might make sense, and they don't like that I say what I see. So they want to silence me. And I tell you, it is shocking that it would make them that uncomfortable this early in my campaign, but I think it's reflective of the movement we represent.
Well, they're trying to cancel you. I saw your Twitter. That's what you said.
And the Twitter response that I posted back got a huge response because people see it. I mean, you can't look away. Why would the Inquirer get involved in this process? Why would they not want to call me Dr. Oz? Everyone knows I'm Dr. Oz, but they don't think it's the right thing to do. They think it gives me an unfair advantage.
But I love how Ducey gives away the game at the beginning. It's like, they're not trying to help you. The media is not supposed to help any politician, be it Democrats or Republicans. I'm not saying that that doesn't happen, but generally in journalism, you're not supposed to. If you're an actual journalist, then you're not supposed to help a particular candidate. You're supposed to be objective. You're supposed to give the facts about both candidates. And I don't know of a bigger fact in this case than the fact that his name is Mehmet Oz. And that, yes, he is a celebrity TV doctor, which is how they're referring to him as. They're not going to do marketing for Dr. Oz. That's not the whole point of the media. You're not supposed to do that. Good Lord. All right, so, but I love the response too. Oh my God, they're silencing me. I'm being canceled. I've been canceled. Bro, you're literally talking to millions of people right now on the most watched network in the country. You're not being silenced at all. You have a megaphone. I mean, come on. Are you kidding me? And again, why is it terrible to use your first name? That's who you are. You're Mehmet Oz. And yes, you're a cardiothoracic surgeon. Wow, that's not difficult. Again, here's the thing though. I think this is my conspiracy. Okay. Now, look, he's running as a Republican, and he has an ethnic name. Mehmet Oz is a Turkish American. I had no problem with that. I don't think it should matter. Now, if you look at Dr. Oz, he is very white passing. All right, so he doesn't look Muslim, basically is what I'm trying to say. But here's the thing, right? To a certain segment of people, of Republican voters, it might actually matter that his name might be too ethnic for him. For them, I should say. Maybe that's what Mehmet Oz is saying. Maybe that's like the meaning behind this. Oh, by the way, also to try to get in on the, I can't believe they're cancel culturing me, because that is a very, very popular sentiment and something that is going to immediately get you a lot of support. So you're going to get a lot of support from people because, the left is trying to cancel you. Oh my God, we must support you now. Now look, I don't think he needs help. He's actually doing incredibly well in polling, which is very interesting. He's some of the most recent polls have him neck and neck. And I think that's partly because of celebrity. Now, I think he knows that celebrity wins. That's how Ronald Reagan won, partly why Trump won. Again, because it's instant name recognition. So, of course, he wants to go and be connected to the brand that he had built, Dr. Oz. You must only address me as Dr. Oz and not as Mehmet Oz. I think it's worked. And so here's the thing, too. Not only has he leveraged his celebrity for political gain, which I guess, happens, fine. But he's also pushed for things that are not fine, like hydroxychloroquine for COVID, when it hasn't been proven to be effective with COVID. It's not approved for COVID. In fact, he had also suggested in April of last year, before widespread vaccination was available, that, you know what, the opening the schools, even if some kids die, it's fine. Take a look.
Well, first, we need our mojo back. Let's start with things that are really critical to the nation where we think we might be able to open without getting into a lot of trouble. I tell you, schools are a very appetizing opportunity. I just saw a nice piece in The Lancet arguing that the opening of schools may only cost us 2 to 3% in terms of total mortality. And, that's any life is a life lost. But to get every child back into a school where they're safely being educated, being fed, and making the most out of their lives with a theoretical risk on the backside, it might be a trade-off some folks would consider.
It might be a trade-off. I mean, only 2 to 3%. Totally fine. Send the kids back to school in the middle of a pandemic. Now, look, afterwards, the backlash was swift, okay? And it's probably why he's like, I can't believe you're silencing me now, cancel culture, blah, blah, blah. You tried to cancel me. So he had to go out and apologize. Still kind of gross. But here's the thing. You know why generally Republicans tend to wanted to open the schools, right? So you can send the parents back to work. You send the kids back to school. Well, then the parents don't have to sit home and watch their kids. They can go back to work. Corporations can start making money again from having people in the office and having control again in the workplace because they really love that. And so, hey, let's send the kids back to school so we can send the kids back to work. Let's just get back to work. Hey, get back to the mines, folks. That's it. And again, to be fair, for some of the parents, they didn't want to sit home with their kids either. I get it. I do understand. But it's this, and that's bad enough as it is. But then you have the COVID disinformation that was pushed by him and Dr. Drew. I remember Dr. Drew early on. That's Dr. Drew Pinsky. COVID, he's like, it's not a big deal. COVID's fine. Beginning of the pandemic. And he later on was like, turns out not fine. Nearly 800,000 Americans have died from COVID now. So not good. Not good. But look, here's the thing. He's pushed dubious supplements for money, disinformation, all of that stuff. Hydroxychloroquine, as I mentioned. And so, look, all of that, I mean, I think it's a natural thing that he sets himself up for a run as a Republican because all the fake tears and stuff like that and all the supplements and they're really only worrying about taxes, paying taxes, getting tax cuts for himself and all of that. You're going to think, well, the Republican base, well, I mean, I love that. I'm sure the Republican base would love that too, especially since I'm a doctor, a cardiothoracic surgeon who doesn't know anything about, immunology or anything related to COVID. But nonetheless, I'm going to sit here and tell you how and go on Fox News and tell you how hydroxychloroquine is amazing and a wonderful thing. But the only thing I think that he doesn't feel confident about is his first name. Just ask Piyush Jindal about that. Or just ask Nimrata Randhawa Haley about that, about their names. And look, here's the thing. Americanizing names is not a new thing. Unfortunately, it's not a new phenomenon. But again, as a Republican candidate, I think a lot of Republicans think, yes, ditch your ethnic name and become Bobby. Become, whatever Americanized name, ditch the foreignness. You're now going to be assimilated as one of us. We must have complete and utter assimilation. You must throw everything away that makes you foreign. I think maybe Dr. Oz hasn't gone so far as to change his name. Obviously not. But just having them and throwing a fit that the Philadelphia Inquirer decided to use his full name instead of just referring to his brand as Dr. Oz might be part of that. Maybe it's a stretch, to be fair. Maybe. But I think that has something to do with it. Again, that's just me. But here's the other thing, though. Even if you do that, as somebody who's not white Christian, as a Republican, I don't think they're ever going to really accept you. There's definitely a part of the Republican base that will definitely not accept you. Now, some of those people will allow you to be in the club if you help them, and you'll obviously even be rewarded handsomely for being part of that. But you'll never be one of them. Now, Dr. Oz, I see him as being like, well, yes, I made a career out of grifting people. Why not? If I can keep doing it as an elected official, absolutely. As long as I can make a buck. Now, one more thing. For its part, the Inquirer defends itself by saying, look, we're just going to refer to all candidates that way, whether celebrity or not. Doesn't matter. We're just going to use your first name and your last name, and we're not going to try to help your brand. We're not in for marketing. And that's it. Good. Don't appease the cancel culture grifters. Because at the end of the day, this is really what it is. just using the specter of cancel culture to try to elevate yourself in Republican politics. Okay. That's it. That's all I've got today. Thank you for watching the show. Let's see if there's any chats here or anything like that. People that I want to thank. Not today, although I think I didn't get to this comment last Friday. This is Madi Darno saying, imagine a society without prejudice and greed. Absolutely. That would be a wonderful, wonderful place. Fortunately, I don't know if it'll ever happen. Grumpy Cat, well done on the Farron Cousins podcast. Oh, thank you. Thank you. That was a lot of fun. I really, really had a great time. And I'd love to do more of those projects. By the way, did a little something over the weekend, just something quick for Humanist Report, Mike Figueredo. It's a fun little project he's working on. He'll release it. I don't know when, but just look forward to seeing, who part of this. So, yeah, that was a good discussion with Farron. Thank you. Thank you. I really, really appreciate that. I really appreciate that. All right. Glad you enjoyed it. Again, hey, if you want to see me do more discussions too, you can always, try to do a pressure campaign to maybe get me on some other shows. And I'll do what I can to go on other shows as well. So, or have people join me here. That's always a fun time too. So, all right. So that said, thank you all. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Please consider joining or becoming a patron. All that wonderful stuff to support the show, independent progressive media. Thank you all. Love you. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, everybody. See you tomorrow, same time, same place.
Give me a break.
Dumps. Big, massive dumps.
Who's got a hammer?
How you like that, boy?
You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.